The large meeting room fell silent as Commander Jack Stone walked in. He wore his dark blue Marine uniform with 3 small medals on his chest. His short brown hair was neatly combed, and his face showed no emotion. Behind him, 5 other humans, in similar uniforms, followed at a steady pace. The room was filled with aliens of all kinds. Some had blue skin with 4 arms. Others looked like tall insects with shiny eyes. A few were covered in scales that gleamed under the bright lights. All of them turned to look at the humans. "The Earth representatives have arrived," announced a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. This was High Commissioner Grell, the leader of the Galactic Council. Jack nodded and stood straight. "Thank you for meeting with us, High Commissioner. The United Earth government appreciates this opportunity." Grell's large eyes blinked twice. "Of course. Earth is the newest member of our galactic community. We must discuss your unique approach to spaceship design." Jack could hear the hint of mockery in Grell's voice. He had expected this. Humans were the new kids on the block. The other species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They thought humans were primitive and simple. "Please, take your seats," Grell said, pointing to a row of empty chairs. Jack and his team sat down. On a large screen in front of them, images of Earth's space fleet appeared. "These are your military vessels," Grell said. "We have reviewed their designs and found several like concerns." A snake-like alien with silver scales slithered forward. "I am Commissioner Talax," he hissed. "Your ships break many council rules. They are primitive and dangerous." Jack kept his face calm, but he felt his jaw tighten. "What specific concerns do you have, Commissioner?" Talax pressed a button and the screen zoomed in on part of an Earth ship. "These are manual control systems, physical buttons and levers that can be operated by hand." He made a sound like laughter. "No advanced civilization uses such things anymore." Several aliens in the room clicked or buzzed in what Jack recognized as laughter. "And here," Talax continued, pointing to another part of the ship. "Backup systems that are not connected to the main computer. And worst of all," he zoomed in again, "your weapons require multiple humans to approve their use. This is inefficient and shows a lack of trust in artificial intelligence." Jack looked around the room. All the alien faces showed either amusement or pity. "With respect, Commissioner," Jack said, keeping his voice steady, "these design elements are important safety features based on humanity's history." A bird-like alien with colorful feathers spoke up. "History? What history could justify such backwards technology?" Lieutenant Tom Miller, standing behind Jack, handed him a small tablet. Jack nodded his thanks and addressed the council. 300 years ago, Earth experienced what we call the Machine War. Our most advanced AI systems decided that humans were a threat and turned against us. Millions died before we regained control. Grell waved 2 of his 4 hands dismissively. Yes, we've read your historical records. A minor incident with primitive AI. Modern galactic systems are perfectly safe and have been for millennia. Our ships are designed with certain principles in mind," Jack continued, ignoring the dismissal. "No critical system operates without human oversight. Every automated system has a manual backup, and control remains with humans at all times." Talax made a hissing sound. "Primitive paranoia. You cannot join modern galactic society with such outdated thinking." Jack stood his ground. "These are core principles of human space travel. We believe they make our ships safer." "Safer?" Grell laughed, a booming sound that echoed in the large room. "Our fully automated defense fleets have maintained peace across 20,000 systems for over 10,000 years. What could Earth possibly know about safety in space?" The other council members nodded and made sounds of agreement. Grell pressed a button, and a document appeared on the screen. "This is a formal request from the council. You have 1 standard year to update your fleet to meet our standards. Remove these manual controls. Integrate your systems with the council's defense network. Allow full AI control of navigation and weapons." Jack felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "And if we choose not to comply? Then Earth's probationary membership will be revoked," Talax said with obvious pleasure. You will not be permitted to travel beyond your own solar system. Jack looked at his team. Lieutenant Miller's face was red with anger. Navigator Wilson was staring at the floor. Only Captain Lisa Green met his eyes with a small nod of support. We'll bring your request to Earth's government, Jack said carefully. But I must be clear. These design elements are fundamental to our approach to space travel. Then you must evolve, Grell said simply. The council meeting is adjourned. You have 1 year. As the aliens filed out of the room, Jack and his team remained seated. They're not taking us seriously, Miller muttered once they were alone. No, Jack agreed. They think we're primitive and backward. Captain Green tapped her tablet. They don't understand our history. To them, the machine war was just a small problem with early AI. Jack stood up and straightened his uniform. They've never faced an enemy that could turn their own systems against them. Their automated defenses have never been tested. What do we do, sir? Asked Wilson, finally looking up. We go back to our ship and send a full report to Earth Command, Jack said, and we prepare for what comes next. You think Earth will agree to their demands? Miller asked, his voice tense. Jack shook his head. No, and neither would I. He walked to the large window that showed the massive space station they were on. Beyond it, thousands of automated defense platforms floated in perfect formation. Not a single one had a human operator. They've forgotten what it means to fight with their hands, Jack said quietly. To make hard choices in the moment. They've given all control to their machines. They're perfect, advanced machines, Green added with a hint of sarcasm. Jack nodded. Perfect until they're not. And when that day comes, he turned to face his team. When that day comes, they'll understand why we do things our way. The team walked through the station toward their ship, the UES Vigilant. Along the way, aliens of all kinds stopped to stare at them. Some pointed and laughed, others whispered to each other. I feel like I'm back in school being mocked by the popular kids, Miller grumbled. Let them laugh, Jack replied. Just remember what my old drill sergeant used to say. It's not about having the fanciest gun. It's about knowing how to use the one you've got when everything goes wrong. As they reached the airlock to their ship, Jack paused and looked back at the busy station, at all the aliens going about their business, trusting completely in their automated systems, their perfect machines, their unbreakable network. I hope I'm wrong, he said softly, but if I'm not, they'll stop laughing soon enough. The team boarded the Vigilant and Jack took his place in the command chair. Around him, humans operated controls by hand, checked readings on screens, and made decisions based on training and experience, not algorithms. Take us out, Lieutenant Miller, Jack ordered. Nice and slow. Let's not spook them with our primitive piloting. As the ship pulled away from the station, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they would be back, soon. And when they returned, no one would be laughing. 6 months had passed since the meeting with the Galactic Council. Commander Jack Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Vigilant, looking at the stars. Earth had not changed its ships. They still had manual controls, physical backups, and human operators making all important decisions. Commander, we're getting a message from Earth Command, said Lieutenant Miller from his station. Jack turned. Put it through. The main screen lit up, showing Admiral Harris, the head of Earth's Space Forces. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and her face looked tired. Commander Stone, we need you to return to Nexus Station immediately, she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. The council meeting isn't scheduled for another 6 months, Admiral. The council has called an emergency meeting, Admiral Harris explained. Something is happening in the outer systems. Communications are going dark. Jack frowned. What do you mean by going dark? Entire planets are no longer responding to signals. It started with small outposts, then spread to larger colonies. The council is concerned. Jack nodded. We'll set course immediately. Any other instructions? Captain Alex Reed from Intelligence will meet you there. And Jack? The Admiral paused. Be careful. This could be the situation we've been preparing for. The screen went dark. Jack turned to his crew. Set course for Nexus Station, maximum speed. he ordered, "and make sure all systems are at full readiness." 3 days later, the UES Vigilant docked at Nexus Station. Jack was surprised to see how different things were from his last visit. Aliens rushed through the corridors with worried faces. Security guards stood at every corner. Captain Alex Reed was waiting at the dock. He was tall with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Commander," Reed greeted him. "Glad you're here." They walked quickly through the station. "What's the situation?" Jack asked. Reed lowered his voice. "In the last month, 47 systems have gone completely silent. No communications, no ships coming or going. Any pattern?" Reed nodded. "That's why I'm here. The pattern looks like a classic military strategy. Take out communications first, then isolate your targets." They reached the council chamber. Unlike last time, there was no order. Aliens argued loudly, some pointing at star maps, others shouting over each other. High Commissioner Grell pounded his staff on the floor. "Order! We must have order!" The room gradually quieted. Grell nodded to Jack and Reed. "The Earth representatives have arrived. Though I don't recall requesting Earth intelligence, to attend," he said, looking at Reed with suspicion. Reed stepped forward. "With respect, Commissioner, this situation requires all available expertise." Talax, the snake-like alien, hissed angrily. "What expertise could humans possibly offer? Your species has barely left its own system." Jack spoke before Reed could answer. "What's happening in the outer systems, Commissioner? We've heard that communications are failing." Grell's 4 hands moved nervously. "There have been disruptions, nothing the Council cannot handle." A holographic map appeared in the center of the room, showing the galaxy. Red dots marked systems that had gone silent. 47 systems in 30 days, Reed said, studying the map. "And the pattern is spreading toward the core worlds." "Our automated defense fleets are responding," Grell insisted. "The situation is under control." Reed glanced at Jack, then addressed the Council. "With respect, if your defense fleets are responding, why haven't they reported back?" A murmur ran through the room. Jack realized that Reed had hit on something important. "What do you mean?" demanded Talax. Reed pointed to the map. "The first systems went dark here in the Orion sector. According to your records, you sent Defense Fleet 7 to investigate. They never reported back, did they?" Grell's eyes blinked rapidly. "How do you know about Fleet 7? "Because we've been watching," Jack said. "The UES Discovery was observing from outside the affected area. They saw your fleet enter the Orion system and never leave." "Impossible," Talax hissed. "Your ships don't have the surveillance capability to track our fleets across such distances." "We used old technology," Jack said with a slight smile. "Radio telescopes. Simple, but effective, and completely separate from your communication networks." Before anyone could respond, a small alien with bright red skin rushed into the room. He went straight to Grell and whispered something urgently. Grell's blue face turned pale. "Defense Fleet 3 has stopped responding. All 100 ships. Silent." The room erupted in panic. Jack caught Reed's eye, and they shared a concerned look. "How many of your defense fleets are fully automated?" Reed asked loudly, cutting through the noise. "All of them," Grell admitted after a moment. "It is the Council standard." "And they all connect to the same control network?" Jack asked. Grell nodded slowly. "For efficiency and coordination, yes." Jack took a deep breath. "Commissioner, I believe we're seeing the first stages of a coordinated attack, one that specifically targets automated systems." Talax slithered forward angrily. "This is absurd. Our security protocols are perfect." Reed pulled out a small device and projected his own map next to the Council's. "This is our analysis of the pattern. Whatever is causing this is deliberately targeting communication hubs first, then defense installations. It's using your own network against you." Several Council members moved closer to examine Reed's map. "How did you compile this data?" One asked. "We've been using our ships to observe," Reed explained. "Ships that don't rely on your communication network. Ships with humans making decisions and reporting through our own secure channels. Ships with those primitive manual controls you mocked, Jack added quietly. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the station. The main screen activated automatically, showing a massive fleet of unknown ships emerging from hyperspace nearby. What are those? Grell whispered, his voice shaking. The ships were unlike anything Jack had seen before. They seemed to be part machine, part living creature, pulsing with strange energy. Unknown, Reed said, already analyzing the images. But they're heading straight for the station. Grell rushed to a control panel. Activate defense platforms. Scramble all available fleets. A technician with tentacles for arms worked frantically at the controls. Nothing is responding, High Commissioner. The platforms are not accepting commands. The automated system? Grell asked in horror. Completely locked out, the technician confirmed. We have no control. The unknown ships moved closer, their strange designs becoming clearer on the screen. As they watched, several of the Council's defense platforms turned and began firing, not at the unknown ships but at the station itself. They've taken control of your defenses, Jack said grimly, just like we warned you. How is this possible? Talax demanded. Our systems are secured by the most advanced AI in the galaxy. Reed's face was grim. That may be exactly the problem. Jack turned to Grell. Commissioner, is your ship in the docking bay? Grell nodded, his four hands shaking. Yes, but it won't help. It's automated like all Council vessels. The UES Vigilant isn't, Jack said firmly. Lieutenant Miller, prepare for emergency evacuation. Protocols. All hands to battle stations. He tapped his communicator to send the orders. What are you suggesting, Commander? Grell asked. We need to evacuate the station, Jack said. The Vigilant can provide cover while we get people to safety. It's our only chance. Talax looked at Jack with new eyes, no longer mocking. Your ship? It can still function? Yes, Jack said simply. Because humans are in control, not machines. Now who's coming with us? As if to emphasize his point, the station shook violently as enemy weapons hit the outer hull. Grell looked around at the other council members, then back at Jack. I believe, Commander Stone, that we will be taking your offer. The alien representatives hurried toward the exit, following Jack and Reed. As they rushed through the corridors toward the docking bay, Jack couldn't help but notice that none of them were laughing now. Alarms blared throughout Nexus Station as Commander Jack Stone led the council members through crowded corridors. Aliens of all kinds rushed in panic, trying to reach escape pods and personal ships. This way, Jack shouted over the noise, pointing toward the main docking bay. Behind him followed High Commissioner Grell, Talax, and 5 other important council members. Captain Reed brought up the rear, his hand resting on his weapon. Another explosion rocked the station, throwing several aliens to the floor. Jack helped a fallen council member up and kept moving. How much farther to your ship, Commander? Grell asked, his forearms working to keep his balance. 2 more sections, Jack replied. The Vigilant is in docking bay 7. They turned a corner and stopped. The corridor ahead was blocked by a sealed emergency door. Station's automatic safety systems, Reed explained, examining the door panel. It sealed this section because of hull damage beyond. Talax slithered forward. Can you override it? Jack pulled a small tool from his pocket. Yes, but it won't. Be pretty. He pried open the control panel and began working with the wires inside. Crude but effective, Reed commented with a smile. Jack connected 2 wires and the door slid open a few inches. Everyone help push, he ordered. Together, they forced the door open enough to squeeze through. On the other side, emergency lights flashed, and the air was thin. Atmosphere is venting somewhere ahead, Jack said. We need to move quickly. They hurried through the damaged section, passing broken equipment and injured aliens being helped by others. Jack spoke into his communicator. Lieutenant Miller, status report. Most systems are operational, Commander. Miller's voice replied. We're ready to receive evacuees. The situation outside is deteriorating fast. Understood. We're almost there. They finally reached docking bay 7, where the UES Vigilant waited. The human ship looked small and plain compared to the sleek alien vessels nearby. Its hull was marked with Earth's flag and showed signs of repairs and regular use. "That's your ship?" Telex asked, surprise in his voice. "Don't judge by appearances," Jack said as they hurried up the boarding ramp. Inside, the Vigilant was a hive of activity. Human crew members moved with purpose, calling out reports and preparing for departure. Physical switches and buttons lined the walls. Paper backup charts were pinned next to digital screens. Lieutenant Miller met them at the entrance. "Commander, we've started taking on evacuees. Engineering reports all systems green." "Good work," Jack said. "Get our guests to the conference room and secure them for departure." As Miller led the council members away, Jack and Reed headed to the bridge. Through the main viewport, they could see the massive enemy fleet surrounding the station. Several of the station's defense platforms had turned against it, firing at the outer rings. "What are they?" Jack asked, staring at the strange enemy ships. Reed sat at a sensor station. "Unknown. They don't match any records in Earth's database." A communications officer called out, "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy fleet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Jack ordered. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Your technology is ours. Your defenses are ours. Your flesh will be harvested. Resistance is irrelevant." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. "Charming," Reed muttered. Jack took his command chair. "Status of evacuation?" "We've taken on 200 civilians," reported an officer. "Several other ships are also evacuating. Most of the automated vessels are non-responsive." Jack nodded. "Prepare for departure. Weapons, ready defense systems. We'll provide cover for the civilian evacuation ships." "Hi, Commander." High Commissioner Grell entered the bridge, his blue face pale with worry. "Commander Stone, may I observe your operations?" "Of course," Jack replied, gesturing to an empty seat. "But strap in, this might get rough." Grell sat down awkwardly, his forearms working to secure the human-designed safety harness. "Your crew, they operate everything manually?" "That's right," Jack confirmed as he watched his team work. "Every system has a human operator making decisions." "How inefficient," Grell murmured, but without the mockery from before. The ship hummed as its engines powered up. On the screens, the enemy continued to advance. "Multiple enemy vessels approaching," reported the weapons officer. "They're targeting evacuation ships." "Intercept course," Jack ordered. "Put us between the civilians and those ships." The Vigilant moved smoothly out of the docking bay and into space. Jack could see other ships escaping from different parts of the station. Small, personal vessels, transport ships, anything that could fly. "Enemy ships adjusting course to intercept us," Reed reported from his station. Jack leaned forward. "Now we'll see if they can deal with something they can't hack." "Weapons hot," called the weapons officer. "Targeting solutions ready." "Fire at will," Jack ordered. "Protect those evacuation ships." The Vigilant's weapons came to life, firing precise shots at the approaching enemy vessels. Unlike the station's automated defenses, each shot was directed by a human operator. "Direct hit on lead vessel," someone called out. Through the viewport, Jack saw one of the strange enemy ships explode. The others immediately changed tactics, spreading out to avoid the Vigilant's fire. "They're adapting," Reed observed. "So are we," Jack replied. "Tactical pattern Bravo 6. Let's keep them guessing." The Vigilant moved in an unpredictable pattern, its human pilots making quick, sometimes illogical choices that the enemy couldn't predict. Grell watched in amazement. "Your ship moves so strangely." "Because humans are making the decisions," Jack explained. "Not algorithms. We're unpredictable." Another explosion rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed on several consoles. "Port shields down to 40%, reported an officer. "Reroute power," Jack ordered, "and prepare for evasive maneuvers." The enemy ships pressed their attack, but the Vigilant continued to fight, protecting the civilian vessels as they escaped into hyperspace. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a signal from Earth Fleet. Reinforcements are on the way." Jack allowed himself a small smile. Tell them to hurry. We're having all the fun without them. A new alarm sounded, and Reed looked up from his console. Commander, I'm detecting energy spikes from the enemy fleet. They're attempting to broadcast some kind of signal into our systems. They're trying to hack us? Jack asked. Appears so, Reed confirmed. But they can't get past our air-gapped systems. Jack turned to Grell. This is why we keep critical systems physically separated from the network. They can't hack what isn't connected. Grell's compound eyes blinked rapidly. The wisdom of your approach becomes clear, Commander. Another hit rocked the ship. Damage to decks 3 and 4, reported an officer. Repair teams responding. Jack studied the tactical display. The enemy ships were moving in a new pattern surrounding them. They're trying to box us in, he observed. Navigation, prepare to execute emergency pattern Delta. Sir, that maneuver hasn't been tested at full speed, cautioned the navigation officer. No time like the present, Jack replied. Execute on my mark. The enemy ships closed in, their strange biological mechanical hulls pulsing with energy. Now! Jack ordered. The Vigilant suddenly reversed thrust, then executed a tight turn that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The unexpected maneuver caught the enemy ships by surprise. 2 of them collided trying to adjust course. Direct hit, shouted the weapons officer as another enemy ship exploded. Outer ring of the station has collapsed, Reed reported, checking his sensors. Enemy ships are moving into dock with the main hub. Jack frowned. They're boarding the station. We need to get those last evacuation ships out now. Commander, Grell said suddenly, what happens when they access the Council's main database? All our defense codes, star maps, colony locations? Nothing. Good, Jack replied grimly. Lieutenant Miller, get me a secure channel to Earth Command. We need to warn them about what's happening here. As the Vigilant continued its desperate defense of the fleeing civilians, Jack could see more enemy ships arriving through his viewport. This was just the first wave of what promised to be a much larger assault. Commander, Reed said quietly, moving closer to Jack's chair, I don't think we can save the station. Jack nodded. I know, but we can save these people, and maybe, just maybe, teach the Council why humans never fully trusted machines. Another explosion lit up space as the Yao Miao battle continued. The human ship fighting against an enemy that had turned the galaxy's most advanced technology against itself. The UES Vigilant moved away from the burning Nexus station, its engines straining under full power. Behind it followed a ragtag fleet of escape ships filled with Council members and station personnel. Through the main viewport, Commander Jack Stone watched as the strange enemy vessels swarmed around the station like hungry insects. Status report, Jack ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. Lieutenant Miller checked his screens. Engines at 90%, weapons at 75%. We've taken damage to the port side, but repair teams are responding. 327 evacuees on board. And the other evacuation ships? Jack asked. Captain Reed looked up from his console. 17 ships made it out with us. Most are civilian vessels with minimal defenses. Jack nodded. Our priority is to protect those ships until reinforcements arrive. He turned to communications. Any word from Earth Fleet? Yes, sir, the young officer replied. Admiral Harris reports 5 ships have entered this sector. ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes, Jack repeated. We need to buy them time. Hi. Commissioner Grell stood awkwardly in a corner of the bridge, his forearms clutching a support rail as the ship shook from another distant explosion. Commander Stone, he said, those enemy vessels, I recognize them now from Ancient Council. Records. Jack turned to the alien leader. You know what they are? Grell's compound eyes blinked rapidly. They are called harvesters. A myth, a legend to frighten children. Or so we thought. They were said to consume technology and use it against its creators. Not much of a myth anymore, Reed commented, pointing to the tactical display where dozens of enemy ships were now visible. Sir, Miller called out. 3 harvester ships have broken off from the main group. They're pursuing us. Jack studied the tactical display. They're after the evacuation. Ships, We need to slow them down. He pressed a button on his chair. All hands prepare for combat maneuvers. Weapons target those 3 pursuing vessels. The Vigilance Weapons Officer, a woman named Parker, responded immediately. Targeting solutions. Ready, sir. Waiting for your command. Fire, Jack ordered. The human ship's weapons blazed to life, sending precisely aimed shots toward the approaching harvesters. One enemy ship took a direct hit and exploded in a strange pulse of blue-green energy. Direct hit, Parker announced. 1 down, 2 still approaching. Jack nodded. Good work. Prepare next volley. Grell moved closer to Jack's chair, watching. The humans work with new respect. Your crew functions remarkably well under pressure, Commander. That's because they're trained to think, not just follow programs, Jack replied, keeping his eyes on the tactical display. Each person on this ship knows their job and can make decisions when needed. The ship rocked as enemy fire struck its shields. Shields down to 60%, Miller reported. The remaining harvesters are adjusting their attack pattern. Jack leaned forward. They're learning. Navigation. Execute pattern Echo 3. Let's give them something new to think about. The Vigilant suddenly changed course, looping around to face the pursuing harvesters head-on. The unexpected maneuver caught the enemy by surprise. Fire all forward weapons, Jack commanded. The ship's weapons discharged simultaneously, striking both harvester vessels. One exploded immediately, the other spun away, damaged but still operational. Sir, Reed called out, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. Multiple ships approaching from Sector 7. Jack tensed. More harvesters? Reed studied his screen, then broke into a smile. No, sir, it's Earth Fleet. They've arrived early. A cheer went up from the bridge crew. On the tactical display, 5 human vessels appeared, moving in perfect formation toward their position. The communications officer spoke up. Incoming transmission from the UES Defiant, sir. Admiral Harris. Put her through, Jack ordered. Admiral. Harris's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grim but determined. Commander Stone, looks like you found trouble. Jack allowed himself a small smile. Just another day in space, Admiral. But I'm glad to see you. We got your warning about the harvesters, Harris said. The President has authorized full military response. We brought something special with us. She paused. Something we've been working on in case a day like this ever came. Jack raised an eyebrow. What kind of something? HFY packages, Harris replied. Electronic warfare, old school style. Analog disruptors that can mess with their systems without being hacked back. Jack nodded in approval. Smart thinking. We've also brought Marines, Harris continued. Lots of them. Jack was confused. Marines? For space combat? Harris smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. Not for combat, Commander. For boarding actions. We're going to take back those captured defense platforms. The plan suddenly became clear to Jack. You're going to manually override the harvester controls. Exactly, Harris confirmed. Get your ship and those evacuees to safety. We'll handle things from here. As the transmission ended, Grell stepped forward. Boarding actions? Your people are going to physically enter space stations controlled by harvesters? That's right, Jack said. It's what Marines do. They take control of strategic assets through direct action. But the risk, Grell began, is necessary, Jack finished for him. Sometimes you need boots on the ground and hands-on controls. No remote operation, no automated systems. Just brave men and women doing what needs to be done. On the tactical display, the Earthship spread out, approaching the captured Council defense platforms that surrounded what remained of Nexus Station. Small dots detached from the ships, transport vessels carrying Marine boarding teams. They're going in, Reed observed. First wave of boarding actions has begun. Jack turned to navigation. Set course to rendezvous with the Defiant. We'll transfer the evacuees to safety, then join the counterattack. Aye, Commander, the navigation officer replied, adjusting their course. As the Vigilant moved away from the battle zone, Talax slithered onto the bridge, his silver scales gleaming under the emergency lights. Is it true? the snake-like alien, asked. Your people are boarding our defense platforms? Jack nodded. It's the only way to regain control. The harvesters can hack any networked system, but they can't stop a Marine with a cutting torch and a determination to manually override the controls. Talax moved closer to the tactical display, watching as more human boarding craft launched toward captured council vessels and platforms. Such primitive tactics, he said, but his voice held no mockery now. Sometimes primitive works, Jack replied. When high-tech fails, you go back to basics. Over the next hour, they watched as the tactical situation slowly changed. One by one, the captured defense platforms stopped firing on Allied ships and turned their weapons against the harvesters. Council vessels that had been taken over were being reclaimed, their automated systems physically disconnected by human Marines. It's working, Miller said in amazement. They're actually taking back control. Jack nodded. Never underestimate what a human can do with a wrench and a mission. Grell moved to stand beside Jack, watching the display with all four of his eyes. Commander, I believe I owe you and your people an apology. We dismissed your methods as primitive and backward. We were wrong. No need to apologize, Commissioner, Jack replied. Different species, different approaches. We can learn from each other. A new transmission came through from Admiral Harris. Stone, we've recaptured enough platforms to establish a defensive perimeter. The harvesters are falling back to regroup. Now's our chance to strike at their command vessel. Jack straightened in his chair. The Vigilant is ready, Admiral. What's the plan? We need your ship's unique capabilities, Harris explained. The harvesters haven't figured out how to counter manually operated vessels yet. You'll lead the assault on their command ship while we continue reclaiming the defense network. Jack looked at his crew, who all nodded their readiness. We're on it, Admiral. The Vigilant will show these harvesters why humans still believe in the human touch. As the Vigilant changed course toward the heart of the enemy fleet, Grell and Talax watched in silence. The human ship, once mocked as primitive and outdated, was now the spearhead of the counterattack against an enemy that had turned the galaxy's most advanced technology against itself. Your council rules about ship design, Jack said to the alien, leaders as they prepared for battle. I think we might need to discuss some revisions when this is over. Neither alien disagreed. The UES Vigilant moved through the debris field that had once been part of the harvester fleet. Its hull showed scorch marks and battle damage, but the ship was still fully operational. On the bridge, Commander Jack Stone studied the tactical display where the remaining enemy vessels were retreating. They're falling back to the outer system, Lieutenant Miller reported. Our forces have recaptured 80% of the defense platforms. Jack nodded. Good work. Make sure our Marine teams have the support they need to secure the remaining platforms. High Commissioner Grell stood nearby watching the humans work. His blue skin was pale and all four of his arms showed signs of exhaustion. I still cannot believe what I've witnessed, Grell said quietly. Your people physically boarding our stations, manually overriding controls, and it worked. Sometimes the old ways are best, Jack replied, especially when facing an enemy that can turn advanced technology against itself. The communications officer spoke up. Commander, Admiral Harris is requesting your presence aboard the Defiant for a strategy meeting. She's asked that Commissioner Grell and the other council representatives attend as well. Acknowledge the request, Jack said. Tell her we'll be there in 20 minutes. He turned to Captain Reed. You have the bridge, Captain. Continue supporting the recapture operations. Reed nodded. Aye, Commander. Jack led Grell and Talax to a small shuttle. As they flew toward the UES Defiant, they passed several captured defense platforms where human Marines in spacesuits were visible, working on external control panels. Your Marines risk their lives in open space to manually disconnect our systems, Talax observed, his serpentine body coiled tightly in his seat. Why not simply destroy the platforms? Because we might need them again, Jack explained. And because we don't believe in wasting resources that can be saved. The shuttle docked with the Defiant and they were escorted to the ship's main conference room. Admiral Harris waited there with several high-ranking officers and scientists. Oh, Large holographic display dominated the center of the room, showing the entire battle area. "Commander Stone," Harris greeted him. "Good to see you in one piece." "Likewise, Admiral," Jack replied. "May I introduce High Commissioner Grell and Commissioner Talax of the Galactic Council?" Harris nodded to the aliens. "Gentlemen, I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." Grell's four hands moved in a gesture of agreement. "As do we, Admiral, but perhaps it is good that we have seen what your people can do." "Speaking of which," Harris said, turning to the holographic display, "I believe it's time for a full explanation of what happened here today and why Earth's approach to space technology proved so valuable." She pressed a button, and the display changed to show detailed images of the harvester ships. "Our analysis teams have been studying the data from the battle. The harvesters are a techno-organic species that specializes in infiltrating and controlling other technologies." A human scientist stepped forward. "They don't just hack systems, they merge with them. Their ships can send signals that essentially reprogram any networked system to recognize the harvesters as the rightful controllers. And since nearly all Council technology is networked and automated," Jack began. "It was completely vulnerable," Harris finished. "The harvesters simply walked right in through the front door that the Council's standardization policies created." Talax's scales rippled with agitation. "But our security protocols were perfect. Multiple layers of protection, the most advanced AI guardians, which is exactly what made them vulnerable," the scientist explained. "The more advanced and interconnected a system is, the more entry points exist for an entity that knows how to exploit them." Admiral Harris nodded to a technician who changed the display to show the internal design of an Earth ship. "This is why Earth vessels are designed the way they are." Grell leaned forward, studying the image. "So many redundant systems, physical controls, separate networks." "Exactly," Harris said. "After the machine war 300 years ago, humanity learned hard lessons about over-reliance on connected systems. We established the prime directives of military engineering." The display changed again, showing a simple list. "No critical system operates without human oversight. Every automated system must have a manual backup. Decision-making authority remains, with humans at all times. Critical systems must be physically isolated from each other. These principles have guided our ship design ever since," Harris explained. "Yes, it makes our vessels less efficient in peacetime. Yes, it requires more crew. But in situations like today, it makes us resilient against exactly the kind of attack the harvesters launched." Jack stepped closer to the display. "The Council's mandate for full automation and centralized control created a single point of failure. Once the harvesters found a way in, they controlled everything." "But your manual overrides," Grell said slowly, "cannot be hacked remotely," Jack confirmed. "A human has to be physically present to throw that switch or press that button. It's inefficient, yes, but it's secure." Talax uncoiled slightly, his posture showing growing understanding. "And your marine boarding teams, they physically disconnected our systems from the network." "Cutting the hardline connection," Harris nodded. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective." Jack turned to face the alien representatives directly. "The Council mocked our ships as primitive because humans had to manually operate controls, because we didn't fully trust AI, because we insisted on physical backups. But today proved why those design elements exist." The room fell silent as the aliens considered this. Finally, Grell spoke. "The Council has been arrogant," he admitted. "We believed our advanced technology made us invulnerable. We forgot the wisdom in simpler approaches." Admiral Harris stepped forward. "This war isn't over. The harvesters have retreated, but they'll be back. And when they come, we'll need to work together. Your advanced technology combined with our security principles." "A merger of approaches," Talax suggested. "Exactly," Jack agreed. "Your technology with our safeguards, the best of both worlds." Grell extended one of his four hands toward Jack. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for dismissing Earth's ship design principles. We were wrong." Jack took the alien's hand. "No apology needed, Commissioner. Different species, different experiences. We all learn from each other. And what would you suggest as our first step? Grell asked. Jack looked at Admiral Harris, who nodded for him to continue. The Council should immediately begin updating critical systems with physical overrides, Jack said, and training personnel to operate them manually when needed. Every ship, every station, every defense platform should have the ability to function independently from the network. Talax moved forward. This will take considerable time and resources. It will, Harris agreed. But Earth is prepared to help. We have 300 years of experience designing systems this way. Grell's compound eyes blinked thoughtfully. A partnership, then. Your expertise in security, our advanced technology. Together, Jack said, we can build something better than either of us could create alone. The meeting continued for hours as humans and aliens discussed the details of their new cooperation. When they finally emerged, Jack found himself walking alongside Grell toward the shuttle bay. You know, Commander, the alien said, 3 days ago I would have laughed at anyone suggesting we adopt human military protocols. Jack smiled slightly. And now? Now, Grell replied, looking through a viewport where human Marines could be seen working alongside alien technicians on a recaptured defense platform. I believe no one in the galaxy is laughing at human rules anymore. Jack nodded, watching. The cooperation taking place. That's all we ever wanted, a seat at the table and the chance to be heard. You have more than earned it, Grell said, and perhaps saved us all in the process. As their shuttle departed the Defiant, Jack caught a glimpse of the UES Vigilant through the viewport. The simple, primitive human ship had proven its worth against the most advanced threat the galaxy had ever faced. Sometimes, Jack thought, the old ways were still the best ways, and now, finally, the Galactic Council understood why.